Good morning and welcome to your Weekend Healthy Chat. I'm your host, Dr. Sara, and today we have guests from Literacy Orange. We have Christine Ronaldo and Rudy Wright. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Dr. Sara. Thank you for having us.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning. We're so happy to have you here. So let's get started. So what is Literacy Orange, and how did both of you become involved with the project?
Okay, so Literacy Orange is a not-for-profit agency. We have been around for 33 years, and basically, we typically run with a group of volunteers. It used to be known as Literacy Volunteers, which many of the listeners probably will be more familiar with, but we have changed our name as we went through a merger through Literacy Volunteers Eastern and Literacy Volunteers Western, and that's why we're now known as Literacy Orange. But we are not-for-profit, and we basically serve the entire county of Orange.
Great. And how did you both become involved with Literacy Orange?
Well, I have been in a not-for-profit world as an executive director, development person for over 35 years, and I was in between situations, went back to the corporate world about 8 years ago after serving in another agency for 10 years as executive director, and I felt really, really called back to the position of literacy. I have two children that actually they're 23 and 20, but they were both dyslexic. So I was the mom that was trying to figure out, how to get the learning skills into them and teach them how to read, and have been through every possible skill set to teach that to my own children. So through my personal experience, a board member in Warwick said, "We're looking for an executive director. Are you interested in applying?" And I absolutely said no at first. And then I went on my interview, stepped in a big puddle of water up to my knee, and then went to Newburgh for that interview, and it was a blizzard. And I thought, oh, this has to be a sign.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. And then a voice said, yes, you are. But it's been a blessing. It really has been.
Great.
So, almost 7 years now.
Perfect. And Rudy, how did you become involved?
I came through the program through Pathstone. Pathstone for senior is Pathstone for senior citizens. It's a work study program. I went to I was at Literacy, and they were teaching me how to run the computer and how to teach people to read
Right.
English and as a second language, as opposed to if they were speaking Spanish or something like that, we had English there, and I liked it very much.
Great. So now, what type of service does Literacy Orange provide to the community? Like, what do we do there?
Well, we do multiple things. We first of all, we typically will get the phone call from either the family member or the learner themselves and say, could go something like this: "Hello, I'm trying to get my GED, and I went over to maybe BOCES or SUNY Orange or another school, and they said I should come to you because I needed to get my literacy levels up." So, or we may get a family member calling on behalf of, "Hello, my mom doesn't read, and my mom needs some literacy skills because she just moved here from another country." But we typically do an evaluation. We pre-test them to get their reading level, and then we will match them with a tutor one-on-one.
Okay.
And then we also do conduct group instruction. So we'll do conversational classes. We are heavy in the last 5 years of doing financial literacy classes. So we teach financial literacy classes to women. And this year we're actually, we just received a grant through the United Way, and we're going to be training the trainers on financial literacy. And that's on the financial education piece.
Right. So what's the age range that you serve?
Well, we've always served adults for the last 32 years, 18 and above, or 16 if they were out of school. In other words, they were, not involved with the school district. But this past year, we've just opened our mission up to incorporate family literacy.
And what does that mean?
Family literacy means from birth on. So we have received a funding through BOCES. Oh, you're familiar with Orange, Ulster BOCES.
Absolutely.
BOCES applied for what's called a literacy zone through Workforce Initiative grant through New York State. And we will actually we are doing it now. We just started this as a welcome center. So any family member can come through the door, and we will refer them to the possible agency, or we will do the pre-testing, the post-testing, and guide them through that. Because it's very cumbersome and can be, I mean, just face it, if you can't read, how difficult is it going to be? But we help them through that maze of services.
And if you have difficulty reading, it must affect lots of aspects of daily living.
Exactly. So, someone could walk in the door and say, hi, I want to, I need to get my citizenship, or I'm trying to get a GED, or whatever the process might be. So Family Welcome Center will, again, and we've done this in the past, but now it's just more formal through this other funding stream that we're going to be a Literacy Zone Welcome Center.
Great. Now, do you have paid staff? Is it volunteer? How does that work?
Well, we have, I'm the only full-time person, and we have lots and lots of wonderful volunteers, but we have 2 part-time program people, which one's a student coordinator and the other one is a tutor coordinator. And now with the BOCES funding, we have a case manager. And then we have, like I said, we serve 3 cities, so we have lots of volunteers within those cities.
I'm a volunteer now.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
When my tenure was up with Pathstone, I just continued working with Christine Literacy Volunteers as a volunteer, because I saw the need there and I saw the results. It was a great need, and it's a greater results. So that kept me coming back, and that's why I'm here today.
Well, that's great. How many volunteers do you guys have?
7,
well, there
6.
we go. I actually bought this. This is our status report. There's 47 in Middletown.
Wow.
There's 35 in Newburgh, and Port Jervis isn't on here because that's our need today. We're going to really ask our listeners to think about who might want to go through training, and we really need to.
So what does training entail? What does training if you wanted to volunteer, what does that training entail?
Okay, training entails, it's 26 hours. 26 hours of instruction. It's from, we call it go-to to instruction. So in other words, it's training that is standardized through New York State, through Literacy New York. We actually played a big role in that as a lead agency, and the typically works where we do it in segments. So it might be 3-4 hour day, 4-hour segments. Or we do 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring.
Okay, great. Yeah, and then that would complete the 26 hours in order for them. Great.
And then, of course, everyone says, okay, now we're going to match you with the student. And it is ongoing because, it can be a little intimidating. Even many of our tutors are an adult learner is different than teaching a child, So we have ongoing support for our tutors.
Great. Now, how many students do you have?
We have lots of students.
So you're always in need of volunteers then.
How many students? And we have also, a waiting list, right?
We have a waiting list. Yeah, that's why we're trying to get tutors to match the people up, because they're waiting for help. And this is what our biggest concern is, the new tutors, because we have a waiting list of people. And they call each month. You have somebody for me, you have somebody. And the tutors have to be,
certified, right?
Certified and programmed, and the personalities also have to come in there. Yeah. Which is kind of like a matchmaker.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So give us for a typical day or a typical tutoring session, how does that work? Is it just paper materials where we're reading books, or do we also do a lot of online stuff? How does that work? What's a typical tutoring session like?
I don't think there is a typical one. Because
each individual,
Yeah, because really every student's need might be very different. You think that it might be, give you an example. I had a woman come in and she speaks Chinese, and her vocabulary in English was probably, 200 words. So her husband actually came as well, and he's very fluent in English. So the setting would go something like this. Here's a picture dictionary, which was a tool. I instructed them how to use this tool in their home, and they went home and practiced that.
To continue the learning.
Exactly.
Right.
So continued learning with icons and prompting, and her practicing. And then for another student who would be let's say someone here that was born in this country and is a basic literacy, that might be at an adult, right? We have adults walk through the door that have been employed and retired now, and when they come in and they say, okay, I finally want to learn to read. So we might go all the way back to the beginning of their phonemic awareness.
Okay.
Or practice their fluency. You know, they may have struggled with comprehension all these years, and as an adult, you learn all these different strategies.
Right.
But, right, Rudy?
Yes, there was a man that worked for one of the bottling companies, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, one of them. Had worked there, and he was retired. He was 70-some-odd years old. But he had retired and said, now I'm missing so much in life, all retirement. I want to learn how to read. And that's basic. And I thought it was a wonderful thing.
That's great.
I thought it was absolutely wonderful.
Right. Do we incorporate electronic learning into that, or is it just...
We're trying to.
If they get to that point,
right.
If they get to computer skills, we have a computer lab there to teach them basic skills and then go advance from there.
We just received some funding just the past few weeks from a financial institution, like I said, because we're doing a lot in financial literacy, and there's such a huge need throughout our communities of people losing their homes and, short sales and all sorts of things going on in the financial world and our economic situation. So we were fortunate to get a grant through Wells Fargo and First Financial, and they're there today setting up the lab. So the grant will enable us to take our curriculum to web-based that will be able to serve many more people.
Yeah.
We started it with a small group of women about 5 years ago that, I was picking up the phone all the time and hearing these cries of, I can't feed my children, I can't buy milk, I can't do this. And the need was so incredible. So we applied for the Women's Financial Literacy Grant, and Warwick Savings Foundation, they co-funded that seed money. And we started this. And as I was just telling Rudy as we were coming here, it's so exciting to see it now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it's become a curriculum, and we're going to be training the trainers. So to answer and to answer your question, they're setting the lab up today, so we're going to be able to serve more people.
Now, what will that specific group do?
That will be for the financial literacy.
Okay.
And some of it is very basic because, I say a budget's like a diet, so we try not to use the word budget, but we try to get people to really understand a cash flow for them. So we can find, people say, I don't make enough money. Well, you know what? Sometimes we can cut out the newspaper and the cup of coffee that you buy at the grocery store, and guess what? We just created $20 a week in cash flow.
Right.
So all little things like that that we've been incorporating into this curriculum. So we'll be taking that web-based.
Perfect. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there, and we'll be right back after this. Welcome back. We're here with Christine Rolando and Rudy Wright discussing Literacy Orange and what that program is for our community. So I know we just left off talking about financial literacy. Let's talk a little bit about health literacy. Now, do you have a lot of people that come to the center looking for trying to understand whether it's doctor speak or whatever it is?
Absolutely. And, right now what we were just talking about on the break is that how difficult it is for anyone to navigate right now what's going in our health insurance world.
Oh, yes.
But I did have a woman that came to me and she said, they just told me I have type 2 diabetes. She said, I didn't even know I had type 1. So, she brought me the paper and said, because her reading level she was a third grade reading level.
Right, so she
was
didn't
struggling.
understand.
And then the other frightening part about that is she had to administer medication to her young son, and she couldn't read the prescription.
Wow.
It was written out, but she just didn't have that level of comprehension. You had a story, right, that you wanted to share about that? Okay. But yes, to answer your question, yes, it's very challenging. Any of us, if you're diagnosed with something, or even if you're ill and you have to take medications, imagine walking into the store.
Oh, absolutely.
And how many choices we have in America of medications.
Even if it's just something simple like Tylenol and all the different names.
I was actually this weekend. I went in and I was like, oh my God, there's like 40 different kinds.
And to not understand how to dose or, things like that just based off of reading. It really does affect, literacy affects so many aspects of a person's life, whether it's just going to the grocery store, going to your doctor's office. So many things it affects. And I'm sure you see that quite a bit in the center.
I do remember one lady, she was being tutored, but she brought her friend in who couldn't read the medication she was being prescribed. She brought her friend in to get one of whoever was helping her to read. The tutor she had to read the medicine to her, and this is one helping the other. They both couldn't read that well.
Right.
One was helping. She knew enough to come to our Literacy Orange. She would get help there. At least we could translate what they were saying. But the medicine, basic health.
Yeah. Now, if you're someone going through the literacy program, is there a time frame for accomplishing the educational goals? Or, how do you know they've been successful? Like, what are the benchmarks that you use to see how someone's doing?
Well, we do report our gains to New York State Education, so we're accountable for that process. And what we do is, again, we pre-test, and then after 12 hours of instruction, we post-test. And what's very challenging for us is that we're dealing with a very low-level learner. We have level 1, they've basically broke down to 4 levels. So if you're dealing with a low-level learner, it's not always, you're not always going to see educational gain in the first 12 hours of instruction.
So what are the 4 levels? If you wouldn't mind breaking it down for me,
well,
just so I know.
They're actually going through some changes, but with all the new GED and all the new cut scores, so honestly, those are probably a little bit complicated. But to give you an example, it is below, a level 1 is below a 3rd grade reading level. So it's, very challenging from that standpoint. So someone might be very skilled as an adult in, like I said, strategies to break down a word phonetically, but their comprehension level might be or their vocabulary level could be very, very low. So what we will do is we will pre-test, we get their reading level, and then we will test them again in 12 hours to hopefully show that gain. And that always is our challenge, again, because, like I said, we're dealing with a lower-level learner. Now, we do have people that we serve that are English second language that would come from their country, and they may be a professional, a doctor, a teacher in their country, but when they come here, they are learning, English, so English second language, which is a different type of test we use for that.
Oh, it is a different test.
It is a different type of test, yeah. But we do report our gains, and we must report to New York State Education through a, what we call, it's called a SIS database, which is challenging in itself, of course, but, that's our accountability.
And how many hours, I'm sure it's based off of the individual, do you see a lot of improvement with those 12 hours, or do you see it where they might need a couple more sessions? Or, obviously it's individual based, but how does that, is it usually 12 hours and then they're finished, or do they continue? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Honestly,
are there some who are in the program for quite a while?
Some people that we do assess will get referred to us, and they're, they may have had an IEP, an individual educational program through school, but maybe not. Maybe they slipped through the cracks and they were learning disabled and they were never diagnosed, or they never had an individual, their IEP. So they come to us, and there's cognitive deficits.
Right.
So we have students that have cognitive deficits that have never been addressed, and now they're adults, and now they're really, they struggle. So it might be
quite a few,
3-4 years before we can show some. Honestly, we have one student that is not showing gain. Not
but
just
they're
one.
Dedicated enough to keep coming, which is great. Keeps us going, gives us hope, and
that motivation.
Hope too. If they continue, then we'll continue to help them.
Do you see a lot of clients get frustrated with the process? Because it's got to be frustrating as an adult trying to learn something, at that level. So I just didn't know, is it frustrating, or do you see a lot of people who are more so eager to learn, so they're very motivated?
I think we see both. I think we see the eager adult learner that's there because they want to be there, but then we also see I've seen learners that, my financial literacy class, they just don't get it. And then, because that's a class instruction, they're saying, why is she getting it? Why are they getting it and I can't? So, of course, you can
see how that would be easily frustrating.
And it could be a different learning style.
Exactly.
They need to see visuals, or they're auditory, or, kinetic. So
do you accommodate to the individual then?
You do. You do. And what's really beautiful about our volunteers is we have a pool of volunteers. We had almost 10,000 hours of volunteer service that go back into this community.
That's great.
And a lot of these people are, might have a master's in special ed, and you don't have to. Don't get me wrong. You don't have to be a teacher to teach literacy, and you don't need to know a foreign language to teach ESL. But we have a wealth of resources in this organization that, we have the retired, one of the military academy retired education. She was the director, and she's one of our tutor trainers.
That's great.
Yeah,
and they have a tremendous amount of patience with these people because they see the eagerness.
Right.
This inspires them to get up and give them something to do because they see these people are putting a lot of effort into it. Showing up on time, diligent, rain or shine, calling if they're not going to be, being responsible. And we take all the tutors, and including myself, take that seriously.
That's great.
It gives me a motivation to come in to help you.
Absolutely.
If you want to help yourself, as opposed to helping someone you don't see any progress.
Right.
And they're not always, all they're giving you is excuses.
Exactly.
I don't want to show up. Thank you.
Yeah.
If you don't show, I won't.
Exactly. Now, that's great.
But most of our clients do show.
So speaking of volunteers, so how does one become a volunteer? Like, what's the process?
The process, basically, they can call our office. May I give the number?
Absolutely.
845-341-5460, or they can go to our website at www.literacyorangeny.org. And on the website, or when they call us, we'll get the information to them regarding when the next tutor training is. Like I said, we hold them typically 4 times a year, and we'll be holding one in March again. So they would just call, and we would answer their questions, get them signed up, and then they could choose which location they want to come and go through the tutor training.
Great. And the locations currently, just to review?
We've had them just recently. We finished one in Middletown and in New Windsor, so we're trying to get one going right in the Port Jervis area. So that's what we're looking for right now. We have space, but we just need to raise up. We try to do a minimum of like 6 to 10 tutors if we can, and we really have a tremendous need right now in Port Jervis area.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we're just looking for tutors at this point to try to get the ball rolling.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
We have the clients.
We have the clients.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I just want to thank you both so much for being here, and we really appreciate what you do for our community. So thank you both so very much.
Dr.
More
Sara,
than
thank you.
welcome.
Thank you for having us. We appreciate you too.
And we'll be right back after this. Now it's time on our show for the email question of the week. A concerned mom writes, "Hi, Dr. Sara. It's said that America's kids are spending roughly 7 hours a day on some kind of electronic device, like tablets, iPhones, TV, or what have you, which leaves minimal time for homework, reading, physical activity, and even family time. What are we as parents supposed to do? Please help." This is an excellent question, and one that I'm asked quite a bit on a regular basis in the office. For all kids over the age of 2, we advise no more than 2 hours of electronics, and this includes TV, computer, tablets, video games, etc. So no more than 2 hours should be allowed. Now, as a parent, you should enforce the cutoff. Granted, there is always leeway. For example, if your little one needs the computer to research a paper or wants the tablet for reading. But again, this should be monitored by you to ensure that they're doing just that. As kids are crafty, even 3-year-olds, I'm learning. Now, once that 2-hour allotment is used, encourage different activities to fill the rest of the day, whether it be family time, sports, reading, etc. Make it fun, make it enjoyable, and I promise in the end, your kids will thank you for it. I hope this helps. For those of you with further email questions, please feel free to email me at drsara@middletownchc.org. Again, that's drsara@middletownchc.org. I just want to thank our guests today from Literacy Orange for being here and to discuss that important program, so thank you. And as always, have an active and healthy week ahead, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.